All right, so we're good. Are we live? I think we are. Hello all and welcome back to the Women's Football Chat Show Live. This is our second one. We did this last Friday and we saw lots of people getting involved in the live chat, lots of people discussing it. So yeah, I was super excited to get back to it. So we're back again today. For anyone who didn't watch last week, the format of the show, we're just going to talk about general things in women's football, mainly focusing on transfers, and then this is something we're hoping to do throughout the season. So yeah, should be very good. And remember, the next 2 weeks it will be on a Thursday, but we are trying to make it the Friday night show. Very confusing. Harry, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be back. As you say, I think it was a nice one to get us off started last week and get into the main transfers. I think last week we did well. We covered the big news, the likes of Smith going to Arsenal, Carpenter to Chelsea, the big moves that already happened. This week, I think we've got a lot more recent stuff on the itinerary. A lot of people have asked for things that we have seen kind of come to light in the last couple of days. But of course, if you're tuning in, you have got a question and get involved in the chat, and we're very good at digressing. We're very good at getting off the beaten track. So I'm sure we'll end up down some completely different place than what we planned to be. But that's the whole point of these shows. Good to chat and as I say, it's good to be back and hopefully keep up this consistently.
Yeah, it feels like it's been quite a manic transfer window. I mean, last season, obviously we had some big deals, but I think the summer in particular wasn't as exciting as it has been this summer. I think obviously Barcelona have had a huge impact on that. I think that the fact that none of the WSL clubs I think London City coming into the WSL has had a huge impact because now every club is striving to invest a lot more and a lot quicker. So I think we've seen so much investment across the league apart from Tottenham. Is that the place to start? No investment.
Yeah, there has been no investment. It's been a weird summer for Tottenham after such a horrible year last season. They really struggled. They showed no signs of fight, and to be honest, if a better side than Palace had come out, I think Tottenham could have been in a bit of trouble. So this is an important summer for Tottenham, and they've gone and got a good manager. They've gone and got someone that I think a lot of people will believe in. But they haven't really shown that in the market. There's been a lack of business. They haven't really touched anyone. They haven't been rumoured with much. And yeah, it's really surprising because they should be doing better. They need to be making more deals because last season just was not good enough.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't want to say too much on Tottenham because I've got a video coming out on Sunday, so look out for that. 2 days till that. But yeah, I really like the addition of Toko Koga. I think that's a really good signing. It's exactly what Tottenham needed. A centre-back who's comfortable with the ball at her feet, but also strong in the tackle, decent in the air. It's exactly what they needed after all 5 of their centre-backs had sort of car crash seasons last year. I think someone who's got a bit of a level head and is comfortable in possession. And that's so important how Martin wants to play. So I think she'll be a real upgrade on what they've got. But yeah, definitely more investment needed. I think looking at that midfield, it's aged now. They need to bring in some younger legs there. I still don't think they've done a great job of replacing Clinton and Beese. Raso still hasn't left the club, by the way. I hadn't realised this. But she still hasn't left. And she was supposed to leave months ago. And she still isn't gone. But I can't see a way back for her at Tottenham now. I still think they need a right winger. I think on the left side they're probably okay because Matilda Wimberg, I'm expecting to have a really good season. That's my expectation this year. I think she could do really well. But yeah, I don't want to say too much on Tottenham, but that is definitely... Look out for the video on Sunday, discussing that in more detail. A few questions as well about the Chelsea video. Alex liking the idea of playing a 3-back. H was saying, love the Chelsea video earlier. I really doubt, though, that Kurt and Myra can coexist. This is something we debated quite a lot over the course of the last season. Obviously, with Myra coming in while Sam Kerr was injured throughout last year, there was a question whether Sam Kerr would return. Obviously, she didn't. It's now been 20 months and she's played a game of football for Chelsea. So that's going to be a concern. But can you see the two of them working as a strike partnership? Is it going to be a bit more of a rotation where this game one strike's preferred, the other a different strike is preferred? Or do you think they could coexist in the same starting 11?
It's a difficult one. I think that for me, I think it would be difficult. I think, yes, it could work. And of course, it's one of those where some people look at it and go, 2 very, very good strikers, you put them together, goals. But it's not as simple as that sometimes. Obviously, there are a lot of strikers who prefer to be that solo 9. A lot of strikers, especially in today's age, aren't very sure or aren't great at playing in a 2. They're very used to being the sole outlet and the player that everyone aims for. If you can get it to work in terms of one plays off the other, then that's a good combination. I think with Ramirez and Kerr, though, I think that would be difficult to get them to work in tandem. I think if you had If you put Ramirez and Beaver Jones up front, I think that wouldn't be terrible because I think they've worked well off each other. That more of a little and large combo, you know, talk about John Walters and Peter Crouch kind of style. But Kerr and Ramirez
is the best team in the league are playing Tony Pulis football.
But that's the kind of dynamic you're looking for, and that's the problem. That football hasn't been played since Tony Pulis. But I think
football is cyclical. Eventually, every tactic comes back round.
So maybe it's time for Bonpastor to bring back the little and large two up front combo. But I think it would be difficult. Both Ramirez and Kerr like to be that solo number 9. To get them to work together will be a very difficult challenge. If Chelsea can do it, oh my days, that would be one of the best attacks in the world. But I'd be surprised if they both work together. But we'll see. I think it's possible that they're both professional footballers. They can both still learn and develop and learn to play in a 2-player partnership. But I think it will definitely take some time if they are going to get there, especially because we don't know what level Sam Kerr's going to come back. Sam Kerr might come back and be the Sam Kerr that we saw a couple of years ago before she got injured. But it could also be a Sam Kerr that looks miles off it and needs time to get back into the game.
That is my biggest question: is where Sam Kerr is at. I think I'm annoyed I didn't talk enough about it in the video today. But the way I could really see Kerr Ramirez working quite complementary. I think people view them as very similar profiles, but actually, when you consider how they both like to play, Ramirez very much is a bit of a hold-up player. Yes, she can use her physicality to burst past players, but she's not going to run in behind too much. Whereas Kerr is better running in behind. She can do the hold-up stuff. But I think they could work quite nicely together. And if people remember Sam Kerr's most prolific season for Chelsea, I believe she played as a forward partnership with Frank Kirby. And so could we see that sort of combination? I know that Frank Kirby and Mara Ramirez are very different players, but could they unlock Sam Kerr in different ways? It very much depends on what Sonia's looking to do this season. Abdul Hakim up the stream says, how many players has Sonia Bonpastor signed this transfer window so far? It depends if you count signings that have happened this window or signings that happened already and then have been like players that have come in this window. But you've got Villa Berman, who was signed already, joined this summer. You've got, I think actually Villa Berman signed last summer with a loan or something like that. But yes, so that was already known well in advance of the summer, and then she's joined up with the squad this summer. Obviously, Ellie Carpenter is a new signing for Chelsea. I feel like there was another one who was Mara Alba has just joined from Hoffenheim. I think that's it.
Olivia Peng.
Of course, to backup goalkeeper to replace Zakira Musovic, which I think is an interesting one because she's relatively young. Has Peng? I mean, there must be assurances on her game time. Maybe cup goalkeeper Olivia Peng.
Yeah, I think it's been a good theme at Chelsea that they use both goalkeepers. I think we saw it less under Bonpastor. It very much was.
That's what surprised me about. Maybe it would have been different last season if Musovic hadn't got injured. Maybe we would have seen rotation goalkeepers. But it did surprise me that Olivia Peng joined, knowing how Bonpastor used her goalkeepers last season. Yeah,
that's a good point. To be fair, I think Musovic was pregnant, so that may explain the majority of it. And the fact that Chelsea had to bring in an emergency goalkeeper in Becky Spencer, who has also now signed on at Chelsea permanently. So
third choice. It allows us to loan out Katie Cox.
Yeah, that was. So to make that make sense, just to have a backup so that Chelsea don't have to make another emergency loan.
She's also homegrown.
That is also true.
So I know that isn't really a problem for Chelsea with everyone they've got, but still.
Yeah, I think Peng will get game time this season. I think that we will see Bonpastor go back to the traditional Chelsea thing, which seems to be the starting goalkeeper plays in the WSL and the big Champions League games, and the second goalkeeper takes the majority of the Champions League games and all the cup matches. I think we'll see that split because we saw with Peng, she was absolutely brilliant at the Euros, and to have two goalkeepers who are that good at Chelsea is brilliant depth. Because we've seen how many times in other clubs, at the other big clubs, how the second, if the first goalkeeper gets injured, how the second goalkeeper can let them down. I mean, Arsenal fans will tell you all about that with Zinsberger when Van Domstar wasn't available. So I think it is important that to have two goalkeepers that are at the very, very top level, again, if you want to compete on all four fronts, is another demonstration of how good Chelsea are at competing in every single competition by having two goalkeepers that are of very, very high quality.
Yeah, definitely so. Ryzen, welcome to the stream. Phil, welcome to the stream as well. Good to see you all. Ryzen asking, hello, are you guys doing a fantasy league this season? Well, we've got some big news. We did share it on our socials the other day, but the guys over at Fantasy, or Aerial Fantasy they're called now, got in contact with us the other day, and we have now got a verified Aerial Fantasy League. So you can head on over there, use the code TWFC, you can join our Fantasy League. So we're going to be doing videos on that across the season, so look out for that sort of stuff. But yeah, personally, very excited to get going with aerial fantasy. I've already had a good start to Fantasy Premier League, already beating Harry in that. So now I need another fantasy game to beat Harry in. So yeah, look forward to keeping track of that in the table.
Yeah, I'm glad we've got a verified league. Massive thank you to Aerial Fantasy for that. Yeah, it's been another tough. I had a really weird fantasy season last year, but yeah, definitely we'll have more content coming out about that over the next coming weeks. And I think I've built my team out 3 different times and still not completely happy with it. But yeah, the league is live. Do get involved in the league, and I think we've already got quite a few people getting involved. So do get in there, and hopefully it'll be a good season. Unfortunately, we don't offer snazzy prizes like some other leagues do, but it's the pride of winning that is the main reason to join.
I'd argue that's better than any prize we could offer.
Maybe it is. Maybe that is probably true.
If anyone's got any suggestions for prizes, then let us know. But yeah, at the moment, just for pride. Have we got anything to touch on in chat? If not, we'll get into some of the topics we had prepared. HB says, wish Arsenal had just one of Chelsea's centre-backs, preferably Bjorn. The depth in position is ridiculous. Well, this is the other thing that opens Chelsea up to potentially using a back three this season. This is the premise, really, of the video I did this morning. But with Villa Berman, Naomi Girma, Natalie Bjorn, Millie Bright at the start of the season, obviously Kadisha Buchanan to come back from an ACL at some point during the campaign, that is 5 centre-halves who, in my opinion, start for every other club in the league. I don't see another team. I don't see a team where they don't start.
Yeah.
Like, even if you took a Villa Berman, who is the most experienced of that list and doesn't have the WSL experience, to actually start at Arsenal, it is the most debatable one, potentially. But I would argue should start alongside Leah Williamson. I think you look at Manchester City, does she start alongside Alex Greenwood? It's close, but I think she... It depends on what you're doing this season. Next, obviously, had to start the season as well, so that is a problem for them. And we'll get actually to... There's a lot of injuries to start the season.
Yeah, a lot of injuries.
So we'll get to those, but maybe City, no. But Manchester United, definitely, I think, alongside Laetitia, someone like a Berman, and obviously any of the other 4, I think, start at those clubs. So Chelsea got incredible depth in that position, I think. But it's weird because I'd still say they haven't got the best centre back in the league, which is Maya Laetitia.
That is true. I think it's a difficult one because, yes, Chelsea have got that squad depth, and I think this season 100% that will work. But you've got to be careful because suddenly you pick up one injury and you're down to 4, and that doesn't that's not 4 isn't feasible for a 3 back. I think that Buchanan will only just be coming back. Millie Bright is very much on her way out. I think her game dropped massive. I mean, she still had a good season last year, but her game dropped massively last season.
There was a comment this morning on the video saying it will be her last season. Do you think this will be Millie Bright's last season? Her contract's up at the end of the year. Do you think this will be Millie Bright's last season in blue?
With her contract up, I would say so. I think it's definitely her last season as a starter. Even if she was to re-sign, she'd drop back to being a squad player. I think even this season, I don't think we'll see Millie Bright starting every game for Chelsea. And I don't think we should see. It's a horrible thing to say. I love Millie Bright, but you look at the players who are coming through now, and for me, Bjorn and Girma are better than her right now. It's as simple as that. So it's a harsh one because she's an absolute legend, and I love Millie Bright, but at the end of the day, it's the performance that matters, and I think that there are better. Chelsea now have better centre-half options than the Millie Bright.
Yeah, a brilliant leader, and obviously that's an attribute that's so important. But yeah, I totally agree. I think in terms of that technical side of her game, I think the physical side as well.
Yeah,
it's definitely lacking. I think we saw last season Chelsea were exposed on those fast breaks. I think defensive transitions weren't strong enough for Chelsea last season. I think a large part of that was pace in the back line. You look at that Bright-Buchanan partnership at times last year. If you've got a Girma in there, you've got even a Natalie Bjorn, that's a quicker partnership, and that does give you a little bit more belief. But yeah, I think anyway there were structural issues with defensive transitions, of course, as well. But I think that's something that's got to be considered because the centre back roles at Chelsea require you to cover such large areas with how aggressive both fullbacks are. So that's something that you've got to consider with who's playing in those positions. And players like Girma, provided she can stay fit, are perfect for those sorts of roles. Whereas players like Millie Bright, I don't know if they are, if she is the right fit anymore for what Chelsea need from a centre-back. The football fan says, who is Ella Wangerheim most likely to sign for? Chelsea, Manchester City or Wolfsburg, or none of them? Well, I believe she signed a new contract. I know Felicity Schroeder, I want to say is her name, or Felicia Schroeder. They signed a new contract to BK Herken. She was one of the big young players in the Damsel-Vasken who people were tipping for a move. Obviously, Ella Wangerheim, another one at Hammarby. I want to say she signed a new contract, but I might be wrong on that. I don't think she'll move this summer now.
No, not now.
I don't think Chelsea will make a signing and up front. I think Chelsea are looking at options. It may be a wide player, maybe a midfielder. I don't know. Don't know what Chelsea. It's such a big squad
exactly.
already.
I think that's the thing, in their position where they don't need anything, and Barcelona can't sign anyone at the moment, and Arsenal again they've kind of done. They've gone out and made their big transfer. They've gone and spent their big bucks. So
what about the other ones that Mr. suggested? Man City or Wolfsburg?
City, again, I think attacking options. The thing is with City, it's really hard to gauge because yes, last season they did struggle, but that was the amount of injuries. If they have everyone back fit, they have got a plethora of options, and that is the real risk you have when you bring in players to replace injured players. Is that once those injured players are fully fit again, you're then gonna have too many options. So if I was a player looking at that front line, I would be a little bit careful because City have got a lot of options across that front three. And especially if they're an unknown, we don't know how they're going to come in and do under Jeglerts. It's a difficult one. That's the thing. I'm looking at all the top clubs, and I definitely think Chelsea, Arsenal, the big three at the moment in the WSL are all Arsenal, City, and Chelsea are all shut up. United's a different story, but the top three for me are shut up. Barcelona can't make any signings.
I would have United to can't buy players. They have to look at free transfers.
You never know. Yeah,
well, actually, we'll get to
exactly. I say that they're getting someone. I think out of all the sides, they'll be hoping to make some moves in the last couple of weeks because the season's closing in. So the big sides by this point have usually got their business done. And that is why it's a difficult thing. I mean, to be fair, the majority of big sides like Chelsea, as we said, they already had pre-arranged transfers that were done months and months ago. Arsenal, they went out quickly straight after the Euros and went and got Olivia Smith. So the big sides, they like to get out there early and get their business done, which is why now if you are a player looking for a big move, you've got to push hard for it in these last couple of weeks because it's going to be difficult to get that now because squads will be starting to settle down and get ready for their seasons to get underway.
Yeah, Chelsea had interest in Vangerheim. I believe Hammarby were playing hard to get, though, and they asked above what Chelsea's valuation of the player was, so they decided to pull out of that deal. Very similar to the Olivia Smith one.
Yeah.
I think Chelsea have been smart by not rushing to act in this market. This window with the explosion of the game and the Euros especially, we've seen a huge explosion in transfer fees. I mean, we've seen the world record transfer broken twice. I wouldn't be surprised if it was broken again, but that would only really be if Barcelona were forced to sell one of their biggest stars, you would think. But I wouldn't be awfully surprised if it was at least broken in the winter window when some of the American assets become available. Someone like a Sophia Wilson, someone like a Trinity Rodman, I think could easily command €2 million. So, yeah, £2 million. That would, I don't know. I can never remember because the problem you've got in the women's game, which we don't really have in the men's game, is that there are 3 different currencies used. So it's so difficult to remember which one is actually at play. But it was $2 million for Elizabeth Oval, which comes to about £1.5 million, I think. Again, okay. Not massively good on how those currencies convert. But yeah, we've seen that huge rate of spending, and I think Chelsea have been smart to not get rushed in or forced to spend big valuations on players who perhaps aren't worth that money.
Yeah.
To just kind of put your point on City, I think it very much depends on what Jeglerts is going to do this season. If Jeglerts is playing a 4-2-3-1 and Giovanna is an attacking midfielder, City have one fit striker. And again, and it also depends on Poppy Pritchard with the other thing. If City view Pritchard as good enough to be a backup striker, that's fine. But if not, Fowler's out injured, and I know she may be coming back quicker than expected, so it's lovely to see that her ACL isn't as bad as we thought. But if Miedemar is starting attack midfield, I just fear City could end up in the same situation where they can't really rest any position because if they wanted to rest Khadija Shaw, they've got to move Miedemar, bring someone into attack midfield. It becomes this whole problem again. I think, and the other option is that if Jeglerts is playing 2 up front, then I don't think they've got enough strikers to do that, and that is something that Jeglerts, is quite fond of as well, is having those options. So I wouldn't rule a move out for City on Vangerheim. Will says definitely not Wolfsburg. They're so stacked up front as well. No, I'm not familiar with who is up front for Wolfsburg at the moment. I was under the impression it was still Alexandra Pop, but she may have moved back into midfield. But obviously, if it is Pop, they'll be looking to move her on shortly. I think Wolfsburg must have money to play with because they sold Smidas Jonsdottir left at the end of her contract. I think Brammer's in the contract as well, so they've got wage budget though to play with. I forget that just everyone leaves for free transfers in the women's game, But yeah, Phil says, Bra we miss when she does leave. Those aggressive dominant centre-backs are tough to find and integrate into a team. Yeah, a lot of teams now are preferring to move for players who are much more comfortable in possession, who are able to play those sorts of systems. You only got to look at Brighton, who have got rid of Thorstdottir and Guro Bergsvand, who you would probably bracket as those more physical centre-halves, as more aerial dominant centre-halves, for Minami and Melisson Pomé. A lot of people were saying, well, I've seen a lot of people talking about Brighton saying, well, the defensive record was so poor last season, so I'm worried about them going into this season, losing those two key players. But actually, I think they'll be able to retain the ball a lot better. I think that the biggest one for Brighton last season was getting caught in transitions as well, and actually getting caught out playing, getting caught playing out from the back. So I think if you take those two problems out, if Brighton's Minami and Pomé partnership works and they're both comfortable in possession, they won't give the ball away as much, and they're both much quicker than Bergsvand and Thorstdottir. Yeah. So I think that could actually work quite nicely.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's the way the game's going now. Is that, again, it's not as simple as you need your defenders to be big and strong and stop the attackers from scoring. That your defenders are a massive part of how you play and how you get the ball from A to B. So teams, obviously, the perfect blend is when you get a defender who can do both, be that aggressor, be that strong in the tackle, but also be good on the ball. They're very rare that you get that. I think it's caught Millie Bright out this year, both on the ball, but also the pace element of the game now has just been, you can't just stand there and be strong anymore. You have to be dynamic. You have to be able to move the ball and shift across quickly, and you have to be able to read the game. And I think that's why Natalie Bjorn has come into her own this season for Chelsea. And as you say, Brighton are now recruiting. It's why Catley has been able to play centre half for Arsenal this season. It's what we've seen, all these centre halves coming through. It's why Maya Le Tissier is the best centre half in England, and for me probably the world, because she can do both. She can be that aggressive, strong defender, but she can also be very comfortable on the ball and has a bit of pace about her. So I think it's the way it's going. I think for Brighton it will be more positive. Again, it will take time to settle. When we've seen the likes of Pomé play for Chelsea, it was very nervy in the Champions League, but the more minutes she plays, the better she'll get, and we've seen how players can really come through and develop at Brighton and end up being brilliant stars. So, I think that it is a shame. I do agree with Phil that that kind of aggressive style of defender is being phased out unless you can do it all. And I do think we're getting a lot more defenders who are more of that pace and that better in the air and quick and good on the ball than actually being strong in the tackle. And because no one really tackles anyone anymore, everyone just stands each other up and try to be smart about it. No one's lumping into each other and making huge strong tackles. But it's interesting.
The game's moved more towards pressing and disrupting structures rather than being sort of front foot. Because if you go in for a tackle, it creates a situation where it's sort of a 50-50, but you put yourself out of position and stuff. So the problem, it's one of the biggest things I think data's had an impact on, is because it's decision making in football, and obviously a lot of decision making is just raw, how a player reacts in a certain moment. But players will be told, and don't dive into challenges if you can avoid it and stuff like that. So that's where maybe data's having an impact, where you look at the averages and go, well, the chance of you winning a ball from doing this action is so minimal. It's stuff like, you look at free kicks now, rather than just lumping it into the box, it's how can you make it work into an advantageous situation, same with corners. Rather than stick it in there, and if we've got tall players, we're going to score goals. It's now a whole routine about it, and there's people that get paid an awful lot of money just to think about how they can disrupt other teams' defending set pieces. I think we'll definitely see. As Phil says, though, soon we'll soon see the re-emergence of big bruises up front as teams move away from big centre backs. Well, that's the thing, and this is why football's quite cyclical in how it comes around. Yeah. A lot of people go, "Oh, Pep Guardiola is a revolutionary," and now we're seeing those same principles in the women's game of using the sort of 3-box-3 shape. Yeah. But actually, that was used by Herbert Chapman at Arsenal in the, I want to say, 60s or something like that, and really early football. And then that evolved, and then you come back around. So it is all very cyclical. It does, because the way to solve the problem you've got at the moment is how do you stop teams being able to play a 3-box-3? And actually, the way they solved that was by playing a 5-back and then lumping it long. So then teams will try and solve that problem. So again, that's why football moves around in that sort of cyclical nature with tactics. Obviously, there are evolutions to systems and stuff like that. And what Guardiola does now isn't exactly what happened back in the day, and what Geraldes does now isn't exactly what Herbert Chapman was using. or even exactly what Guardiola is doing. But it's a similar sort of principle, and again, those principles come around. Salah, with the same thing of where is Ella Vangerheim going? Yeah, we didn't actually answer that question totally. We discussed why she's not going to go to any of the options. I think that leaves the answer as probably stay at Hammarby, unless there's a team that's got a bit of money to spend that can convince her of the project. You know, if you're Liverpool, do you just, because they haven't done anything with the Smith money yet?
Yeah. Why not?
So why not? Yeah, exactly. Look at, can you bring her in? Because I would say, should be an upgrade on Romain Haug.
Yeah.
We haven't really, I don't think Haug has adapted to the WSL. She's had a few injuries, I know, but yeah, I think I think it's a shame that she hasn't really worked, and also she had those injuries. But I think Van Gaal would be much more suited to the WSL than someone like a Haug is.
Yeah, and I think that obviously they've re-signed Leanne Kiernan. She's got a new deal, but I think that would be two strikers there that offer you completely different, offer you different options. Kiernan can be that on the shoulder, in behind, use her pace and get in behind, whereas Vangeheim can be that hold up, that more of a brute player. And that would be a good combination. It's what they tried to do with Romain Haug, but I don't think she's as strong or as physical or as imposing as they needed her to be. While we're on Liverpool, I have to mention it because loads of people have spent weeks slagging off Gareth Taylor and saying that what you said in the video about him doing well was going to be wrong because he was a rubbish manager. And then when they went and got smashed by Aston Villa in a friendly, and everyone went, "Ha, he's rubbish. They're going to do terribly." And then they went to drew Man United, and
they lost to Durham as well.
They did lose to Durham.
Everyone looks at those games and went, well, they've been smashed by Villa. They've lost to a side in the tier below them. They're obviously going to do awful. And then, as you say, they played Manchester United on Wednesday night, I believe it was, and they did end up drawing 2-1, but they held their own. Drawing 2-2, sorry, drawing 2-1. They drew 2-2 in the end, but they held their own in that match. And I think what we saw was that once Taylor's given time, I know the obvious comeback to that will be, well, Mark Skinner's obviously then a terrible manager. But no, I think once Taylor's given time at Liverpool and any form of investment, I think he'll do quite well. I think a lot of people look back at Taylor. I don't know what the opposite of rose tinted glasses are. Black tinted,
maybe.
People view Taylor's entire time at Manchester City through Chloe Kelly's glasses.
Yes.
And so they just look at that situation and go, well, he's obviously a terrible manager because this player fell out with him. But actually, I think that situation was a lot more two-sided than some of the media's made it out to be, and a lot of women's football fans view it as. I understand it because people love Chloe Kelly. She's a national icon. Gareth Taylor, to young female fans, isn't a national icon. So, and even to men's football fans who watched him play for Man City back in the day, he's not a national football icon. But, he is, I think, a very capable coach. I think at City, he was always that nearly man, and I don't think it was always his fault. You look at the title race and people go, well, they absolutely bottled it. But in that run-in, they had no natural replacement for Khadija Shaw, who got injured, and then they had to readjust their entire front line. That affected how they were able to score goals. They had injuries to the back line as well. They should have won that title, in my opinion. I don't think it was all his fault that they lost that title. They were brilliant that season. A large part of that was Gareth Taylor as the manager. I think if Liverpool seriously back him in the market and use the £1.1 million, which is, I don't know where that's gone. I don't know why we haven't seen Liverpool make any signings. I mean, I know why. Clubs don't care about the women's side enough. But that 1.1 million should have been reinvested. I know they've signed new contract stuff, and that is important as well. But now that's out the way. Now Nagano's got a deal. Now that certain other players have got a deal. Hannah Silcock signed for long term. Now go and sign a right winger. Yeah, but Kerry Holland did look very good in the friendly against United. So maybe they'll just do that and ignore the fact that they haven't signed a Smith replacement.
For me, it's as simple as if they go out and spend that 1.1 million, they can definitely be knocking on the door of the top four, 100%, because they've got a manager that's capable of it. And I think what caught people out with Taylor is that I don't think people realise how common it is for managers to have disgruntlements with players. It happens all the time. It's just never publicised. And usually players don't take it to the media and say silly things on their Instagram stories unless you're Kelly or you're Alexander Isak. But I think that it's one of those where it happens all the time. Usually it's a natural process where the player will just move on, but it got drawn out and that was the thing. But the key thing I look at is that Taylor never lost the dressing room. He lost one or two players, yes, but he never lost the dressing room.
And that's what I find funny, because people will use words like Taylor bullied Kelly and, was horrible to her and made her, ruined her mental health. I'm not denying the fact that she may have her mental health may have been impacted by the situation, But I don't think Taylor ever did that. And if or had the intention of doing that.
Yeah.
And if he was this malicious character, I don't think the rest of the squad would have just sat there and gone, well, he is a good coach, so we'll just look past that. They would have stood up for us. So yeah, I think it's easy to view it one way, but actually, it was very much a two-way street. He had to look at that as a business decision. Kelly was refusing to sign a new deal. City had just signed for Gino, and Kelly at the time had come off 6 months where she wasn't playing well. So I think it was completely fair with Fowler and Firmino to suggest that Kelly was going to get reduced game time and couldn't just demand as much as she wanted on the contract.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's an outrageous situation, but there you go. It got out of hand massively. Thor Music says, it's really mad to me how people turned on Taylor. God forbid anyone should have a tiff with St. Chloe. I think that's exactly the situation.
Yeah.
People love Chloe Kelly, so they got annoyed about it. But ultimately, I think it wasn't as malicious from Gareth Taylor as it was made out to be. Apologies if I'm going to try and pronounce his name correctly, but apologies if I don't. Musin Guzi has a Goffrey. It says, listening from Uganda, what do you think of Chelsea transfers so far now that James is out? Well, we did have James out as one of our topics for discussion, so let's get into that. That is a concern again for Lauren James, firstly, but also for Chelsea's chances of glory in all competitions this season. What is the problem for James? Why can't managers just give her a rest?
Yeah, it's a really horrible situation to be in when you are a player that has the quality of Lauren James, because what happens is, because the likes of Hayes before and Bombastor and Wiegman, because they know how good Lauren James is and how game-changing she can be, she gets forced to play even when she's not fully fit. And it's why we see these recurring, it's why we see this carousel of injuries that James keeps picking up. Because what happens is every time she gets to 70% recovered from an injury, a manager goes, I'm going to play her, and then suddenly because she plays, she then gets to right back where she started.
She also plays 100% of minutes.
Yes.
We saw that with her at the Euros. I don't think she was managed well in that competition at all. I don't think she should have played at the Euros at all. But again, you see the goal in the second game against the Netherlands is exactly why they needed her. She's a fantastic footballer, but she's clearly shown that she has problems in terms of injuries. And I feel that Bompastor needs to have a chat with Maresca. Because look at how he's dealt with Reece James. We haven't seen him have an injury since Maresca's come in, or at least a major injury. I mean, the way that he's managed James, the way that he's allowed him to recover at his own pace, and then when he plays, not playing him in an all-out aggressive role where he's running up and down the line. I feel like you've got to work with Lauren James in that regard and make sure that what she's doing is going to ensure that she doesn't get injured, because at the moment what they just keep doing is further setbacks, and then she'll get an injury, be playing through an injury, and then either make that injury worse or pick up another injury, and it just seems to be this constant cycle. We've got no idea on the timeline again, because that they've said it'll be a period of time. So
that could be anything.
She could be back in October. She might not be back till it gets to the Champions League knockouts. Who knows? I think Chelsea have got a plan without James this season now, which is going to be a huge shame because that's a massive player lost. But yeah, I think you've just got to look at how Maresca's dealt with Reece James and used him in a bit more of a relaxed role, where instead of being a fullback who bombs forward, he's a fullback who sits a little deeper. And then once that injury record is lessened, maybe you look at bringing in a little bit more load to her game.
Yeah, 100%. It's about looking ahead and being smart. The injury that she picked up for England on international break against Belgium back in February, that one was easily avoided because there should have been a conversation between Wiegman and James, and Wiegman would have gone, okay, I'm not going to pick you this time. And even if Wiegman didn't want to have that conversation, it is then on James and it is on Chelsea to turn around to England. Because let's be honest, if Lauren James hadn't gone to that international break, it wouldn't have ruined her chances of going to the Euros because she'd have been there anyway. So why did James go, and why didn't someone at Chelsea or James herself say to England and Wiegman, I'm missing this international break. I'm going to enjoy the 2 weeks where I'm to play football. I'm going to make sure I'm fully fit again. Instead, they rushed it. She went off and played for England and injured herself again.
But also, loads of other players pulled out at the same time. Yes. I think Russo pulled out their international break, didn't she? With a knock. Russo was never injured in that international break. She played for Arsenal in the weeks coming up to the internationals, and she played immediately after the internationals. That was just an excuse to make sure she didn't have to play for England in games that they viewed as not important. Which are Nations League games important in the grand scheme of things? Not really. Chelsea and James had to be smart with that. Completely agree. But England also had to be smart with that and know that James isn't 100% and not just start her and then worry later. But yeah, I think it's such a shame that she just keeps picking up injuries and is overused by managers. I understand why they do it. If Lauren James is there and available, even 70% of Lauren James, because of how good a player she is, you feel like the risk is worth taking. But actually, for the sake of her career and the sake of making sure you have her for more than just 5 minutes every season, where she does something magical and then gets injured, actually prolonging her career and prolonging her ability to impact games the way she does, it would be smarter to sort of rest her a bit more.
Yeah, and I think it's exactly the same principles and exactly the same answers for Leah Williamson as well. Again, she will also miss.
Slightly different because it's not as load intensive centre back, but she has still played so much football over the last few years.
Williamson missed one game. I think she missed one game under Slager so far, and that was at Villa away, and they got absolutely trounced.
Yeah.
And she hasn't had a rest since. And again, she goes into the Euros, plays every game for England, comes out the Euros, has to have minor knee surgery, and now Arsenal are missing Leah Williamson for the start of the season, which is a massive blow because we saw how much Slagers doesn't know what to do when there isn't a Williamson in that back line, and that is going to be concerning.
That was my biggest criticism of Slagers last season, which she's got to get better at. Is that she's got an 11 that she loves, and that's fine. It won the Champions League, fair enough. But they've got to have a squad, and that's how you win league titles. You can win Champions Leagues having 11 players who are able to stay fit throughout the season and get you over the line. And she did that. They, tactically they nailed it in the games that mattered, and they won the Champions League deservedly so. But over the course of a league season, you have to have consistency, and if you've only got 11 players that you trust, then that is a huge problem. But, she has made signings this summer. It's her first full summer with the squad, so that will have an impact. But yeah, I definitely think Arsenal looks significantly worse. This is the funny thing. As good as Lauren James is as a player, I don't think she's as important to Chelsea as Williamson is to Arsenal. No. Arsenal's back line, without Leah Williamson, to me, probably sits fourth best in the league. But with Williamson, easily climbs up to compete with the top. So she's that important to how defensively solid that back line looks. How much of an impact does it have on Arsenal's ability to stay in the title race in those first 4 weeks?
It's absolutely massive because, as we've seen before, and I said this when we did the show last Friday and when we touched on the title race, is that the way to do it is to keep pace with Chelsea early. Maybe you can get out. Look what Man City did 2 years ago. They kept pace with Chelsea early. Then in the mid part of the season, they got out in front and they put the pressure right on Chelsea and they made Chelsea deliver. We saw how last year when you fall a couple of points behind at the very start of the season, suddenly you're never going to catch up.
Well, that season you're mentioning, the one that City should have won the league in, the season before last, Arsenal led the table going into November after they beat Chelsea.
Yeah,
they should have led going into the winter break and lost to Tottenham, and that was in the back half of the campaign that we saw City push through, and obviously because they didn't have Champions League football, they fielded a stronger side against Chelsea and beat them in that game, and then obviously they kicked on from there. But it's a very similar situation for Arsenal as it was in that season, where Chelsea and City play early on. If it's a draw again, like it was that time, it will give Arsenal a chance to really mount a lead in the title race.
Yeah.
So they've got to make the use of that. Obviously, I think they play Chelsea in match week 4, don't they?
It's pretty early on. So
really early in the season. So that could have if Williamson isn't back for that, I can't see Arsenal winning it with their current squad.
Yeah, it's again, it's important to say that it's not a question. Honestly, I think that Moy and Cadena and whoever are good enough quality to start in the direct. They are, they are, but they are very, very good centre halves. But that's the thing. A, we're talking about being that leading centre half, but B, it's also in terms of who Slager's backs. Because if I'm Moy and I'm Cadena, I know I'm a good player. But if I'm walking out onto the pitch knowing that my manager really doesn't want to play me and doesn't trust me in these games, that's going to impact you a little bit. And if you're Rennie Slagers, you're going to be sat there thinking, that could cost us today. Because all we've seen so far under Slagers is that when Williamson hasn't played, Arsenal have struggled. It's as simple as that. And Arsenal cannot afford to struggle while she's out. So someone has got to step up. But you take Williamson out and you put Moy in, and I look at a Catlin and Moy centre half partnership, and I do see some problems there because Williamson just glue, the organisation. That was the biggest thing. Was when I mentioned that Villa game, was that the biggest thing that caught Arsenal out was the organisation of the back line. All 4 defenders were stood in complete. They were on a diagonal. No one was in line with each other. No one took charge of that back line and of that game. And that will be the biggest question, is that if Rumours comes in and steps into that leadership role and takes charge of that back 4, then happy days. Arsenal will be absolutely fine. But I don't see anyone else in that back 4 who can take control of it and lead by example. Because if you don't have organisation in your back line, you will get torn apart by the majority of sides in the league nowadays. So I think that, no Williamson for the start of the season is a massive blow for Arsenal. No James for the start of the season is a massive blow for Chelsea. And it's a real shame to see both, two of the best players in the league not be able to start from match week 1.
But I would say the difference is, based on their current squads, Chelsea can win the league without Lauren James. Arsenal can't win the league without Leah Williamson. As Phil says, on Arsenal, can't see us winning a league without changing how we play. It's way too open and susceptible to getting beaten by somebody low down the table at least once in a season. They're very vulnerable to transitions. I think that was the biggest thing about Arsenal last season. I think they're a little bit too hesitant in attacking areas, so they don't kill teams off quick enough.
Yeah.
If the opposition get opened up, if Arsenal score early, it changes the game, because then the opposition gets opened up and then Arsenal play through them and they tend to win like 4-0. It's fine. But the longer Arsenal don't score, it just starts to creep into favour of the opposition at times. And I think if you're looking at teams like Villa, who are very good defensively and very good in transition, if you're looking at Brighton, who are very good defensively and in transition, then obviously Brighton's a bit different with Arsenal because they won't have a striker in that game or an attacking midfielder. So Brighton won't have any players in that match. But their ability to withstand... That feels like a word. I'm going with it. To withstand pressure.
Withstand pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly. Withstand pressure. Let us know if there's any English experts in the live chat. But their ability to play under pressure and then break through the lines is very good. And actually they're pressing as well. Brighton and Villa really strong last season. We've seen teams caught out by that. So I think that could be a big thing for us. And one of the biggest things that Williamson does very well is she's not afraid to just hit it long. And actually those balls in behind can stretch the pitch a lot, can change in terms of where the ball is in territory. If you're playing a side who want to press you very aggressively and then drop into a low block, if you just ping a ball and then force them to play, it changes how the outlook of the game. So sometimes you don't want the ball.
Yeah. Brighton last season proved exactly what you're talking about, how a game at the Emirates, Arsenal started fast, went 1-0 up, and they won the game 5-0. And that stunned everyone because everyone thought Brighton were really good, then Arsenal turned them over. Then you go to the game when Brighton hosted Arsenal. Brighton started the better side than that. They got on top of Arsenal, and that game turned out to being a draw. And that's where I see what your point and Phil's point of how varied Arsenal's performances can be, because that is the same side they played in last season, and in one game they won 5-0 and played them off the park, and in the other game they drew 2-2. How do you go from beating a side 5-0 to drawing with them 2-2 and losing that game? They were 2-0 down for the majority of the match. So that's where where Arsenal's problem comes, is it is so inconsistent, and without Williamson, they're going to be closer to those kind of 2-2 results than they are going to be to those 5-0 games.
Yeah, I am aware of this becoming the Arsenal show again, partly because of our audience. So thank you, love it, but we will move on shortly. But we have got a question from HB saying, hate how the Mead thing has gone quiet. We had a chance to do something we need to do. We're looking like we're going to be sentimental once again. Yeah, so London City bidded, we spoke about it on last week's show. Arsenal, there's been nothing in the media about it since. Gone a little bit quiet. Do you think Arsenal will be desperate to hold on to Beth Mead? Is that what's happening here?
It feels like it. Obviously, Jocelyn Proyector did come out a few days ago and say that London City were interested in Beth Mead. I thought, I've never seen that before. Man, just walk out and go, we want this player.
That is what having Michelle Kang as an owner. You can just say whatever you want.
I
would quite like Bob Mate, and Michelle Kang goes, well, I'll get it sorted.
But yeah, so there's definitely London City want her. There's no doubt about that. London City Lionesses and Michelle Kang want to have Beth Mead in the door by the time we get round to the transfer deadline in a couple of weeks' time. Arsenal, I don't really know what they're doing. I don't know where they stand on it. I don't know why they're so reluctant to let her go, because yes, she's a fan favourite, but I don't think you're going to lose your fan base because you lose Beth Mead. That's not how football works. So I think Arsenal have got to stop being sentimental, and if London City want her, let them take them. How many sides have managed to say no to Michelle Kang and get away with it successfully? No side's ever done it. Either they say no and we never see them again, or they say yes and they just hand the player over. So I think Arsenal have to cut the sentimental ties and let Mead go to London City. Fans will still love her at London City. Fans will still love Arsenal for it. It's not a make or break scenario where if Beth Mead goes, we go, and suddenly there's only 1,000 people at the Emirates next season. That won't happen. They've just got to let her go.
It also depends, I guess, on what Mead is thinking at this moment in time, because she might be quite happy to play for Arsenal this season and see her contract out, and then have a bit, all of the options available to her next summer. I don't think she would have any problem with being a rotational player, still getting to play for the club that she loves. And then next summer, especially because I think, does Miedema's contract at City expire next summer as well?
It's close.
I think it's next summer as well. And obviously, there'll be a consideration that they might want to play together. I wouldn't
imagine that.
Well, exactly. They're playing together again. So I think they'll look at I think Mead will look at her options next summer, and I wouldn't be surprised if she's very keen on staying at Arsenal. But yeah, London City is also a great opportunity. I think a very exciting club. I think the only fear for Mead is that it's not the most. If she's going to London City, is she actually going to start right now?
That is a very good point.
Like, there are so many players there. Is she any more nailed than she is at Arsenal?
And even if she does go, she might get this season, but then after that, Michelle Kang will bring in more wonder kids and to win the league, and suddenly she's shuffled out.
Well, that's the thing. She's Freya Godfrey's already at London City. I know Mead plays more on the right and Godfrey more on the left, but Nikita Parris is there who can play on the right. I feel like I forget who London City have got, because they've got so many players. They've got so many players this window. We're going to do a proper video. Probably have to take about an hour just to get through. They've signed, but yeah, they've made so many signings this summer. I feel like they're nowhere near done.
That's the thing. I think if you're Beth Mead, I think it makes sense to wait one more year and then see what's going on in the Championship. Because look at Newcastle I think not this season for me is a little bit too early for a side like Newcastle. But I guess that's a big change because that is right up north. But go join Jordan Nobbs and ball out over there. But yeah, I think that
and Aoife Mannion.
Great. You created like this brilliant, like
a brilliant team 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Now none of them can run.
And if they were to get Newcastle promoted, they'd all have to leave again, especially for Mannion, because it just cost them so many points. What would be the point? But I think that if you Mead might not want to go. That's the other thing you've got to consider in this scenario, that she might just be saying to Arsenal, I don't want to go to Michelle Kang's fun party at London City Lionesses. I want to stay here and play football. But that's the thing. It's a difficult one. But yeah, maybe it is just about Arsenal. But having that honest conversation and saying, Renee Slager's going, you're not going to start next year. You're not going to play enough minutes. I really suggest you move on.
Yeah, right. Speaking of moving on. Let's talk about Giovanna Hoffmann. I want to start by parking any personal issues that she might have at the door and talk about whether she's a good fit as a player at Manchester United. Because personally, I think it's a fantastic fit. We saw in the Betis game the other day for United that Melvin Mallard looks to be moving to left wing this season. She's very dangerous, cutting in, taking shots on her right foot. And I think that she could definitely make that position her own this year. And that would leave them, though, I think, a little short up front with Rachel Williams as their only other option. I don't know why she's still at the club, but I think Hoffmann would give them something really different to Elizabeth Turland, a very different profile. Someone who I think was very impressive at the most recent Women's Euros, and that we know how much United like signing off the back of major tournaments, and they're actually going to pay money for her.
Yeah.
So there's lots to be excited about here if we park some of the personal issues at the door.
Yes, I was going to say, off the pitch, it does not help United or Skinner or anyone's picture whatsoever.
Well, it might just detract from everything else.
But on the pitch, I think this will be a good bit of business, and I really hope this rumour is true, because suddenly, again, we said this time and time again about United. If they spend a bit of money, they go from being on the outskirts of the top four to being right, in that fight for the title. It's as simple as that. And this, for me, will be a very, very good signing. It brings us back to what we said earlier about these more physical, very good hold-up strikers could be coming back into the game as the game goes on. And Hoffmann was brilliant at it. Not completely opposes, but offers you something different to Hoffmann. Not to herself, to Turland.
But I think it's important to say, because obviously they're both decent hold up. But I think Turland's really good in the air. Hoffmann's much better running in behind. So I think they give you a little bit difference there. But they're still similar enough profiles that you don't completely change the tactic in order to fit one or the other.
And it'll do United to have a bit of as you say, similarity, but also there's a tiny bit of difference there, because the amount of times where we've seen it when United have gone, who they going to bring off the bench, and it's just like for like substitutions, and they get nothing from those subs. So I think Hoffmann would be a great bit of business. It'd be great for the fans and it would show a massive positive if they were to go and actually spend some money. That just the fact that the women's side are going to be able to spend a transfer fee excites me as a neutral. So I really hope this rumour's true. I really hope they do go out and get her, because it just reinforces the front line. It would mean Rachel Williams would be completely pointless still being employed by the club. So that's the problem that United have got with that kind of bit of business, is if they do go sign a Hoffmann, there's still going to be a negative as to they got the Rachel Williams decision wrong. But yeah, overall I think Hoffmann's a very, very good player. Will give United a little bit more oomph, another option off the bench, and obviously will rotate with Turland and help to balance, because again they're a side they're going to be playing in 4 competitions next season unless they completely balls up the Champions League
really
qualifiers.
Players playing one.
No, they don't, and that is my problem. They need to go out and get as many players as possible, but not just anyone. Don't go get people who are rubbish. Not that's a bit harsh, but don't get players who aren't at a level. Go and get players like Hoffmann who are ready to come into the team now and compete for minutes and compete in every single competition.
It depends how serious they are about pushing on. If they want to kick on as a club, for me, they need ceiling raising signings. Striker's probably one position where they do just need a backup, though, because are you going to get better than Elizabeth Turland in this market?
No.
No. Unless you've found $1 million and down the back sofa, and Khadija Shaw fancies changing from light blue to red, maybe you can upgrade. But there's not much better than Turland that you're going to get at a reasonable fee. So I don't think that's a bad decision to bring in a backup player. Ewell says Hoffmann is a younger Rachel Williams. Perfect. My problem with Williams isn't her profile. My problem with Williams is that she can't run. She doesn't strike the ball particularly well. She just doesn't suit the speed of modern football. But you bring in someone like Hoffmann, who is much more mobile, decent ball strikers we saw from the Euros. I think that makes perfect sense. Ewell says, why not get Cersei Martinez or Anyomi? Money, I would say. Ewell, Shakira Martinez, that's not the one we haven't really spoken about. I think West Ham are just sort of hoping that if no one mentions her, that she'll still be their player next season.
Yeah, I think that's been West Ham's summer, is that they'll just sit quietly in the corner and hope no one notices they've got loads of good players.
Yeah.
Because they haven't really, they've recruited a couple, they've renewed a couple of contracts, and they've actually done really well. They've done what I think a lot of sides haven't failed to do, which is clear out players who aren't at the level anymore. And I give massive credit to West Ham, because they have lost. They've lost a lot, and they do
none of them were key.
Replace it. Yeah, exactly. They've just got rid of the squad players who weren't quite good enough. But it feels like their game plan is to just lay low, everyone forget they're there. And then on deadline day, just come out and sign 4 players. No one's got any time to buy Shakira Martinez, and their deadline will close, and they'll still have all their best players, which so far is working. But yeah, they've enjoyed a good summer. But I do think that United, it is difficult. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I agree. The suggestions there are very good players, but I think them spending some money would be good enough right now. Yeah, but I don't think it would be an incredibly large sum if they were to go and sign anyone for any transfer fee right now.
Yeah, I think when you look at those players you mentioned there, Ewell and Yomi, I think Frankfurt, because Frankfurt got Champions League this season. I think they finished Champions League last season, didn't they?
That was so close. I've genuinely forgotten who finished there, because there was at one point this season where they're all in the same position. They're practically at the top of the Frauen Bundesliga.
I know, I think they've got 3 spots similar to England. I think Bayern and Wolfsburg, and then Frankfurt.
It must be Frankfurt, because they were top for a while, and they top for a bit
around there.
But yeah, that was a brilliant title fight. Just that's a separate point. But yeah, I think that
then was it Freiburg 4th, something like that.
Man United don't seem to be very good at going for players that everyone wants. They usually pick players that no one else is really interested in.
But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Chelsea are trying to do a similar thing where they knew there was a bidding war around Olivia Smith. They didn't want to touch it, and instead Arsenal spent 1.1 million, which I think at the time was a slight of a payment. It's not a bad thing. She's a very, very good player. So, and 1.1 million to Arsenal's owners, it doesn't matter. It's not. Yeah. It's not like they would have spent that 1.1 million anywhere else. So I think that's fine. Ewell says they have Champions League qualifiers, exactly. So I can't see Frankfurt letting Anyomi go for anything under 500k. I can't see West Ham letting Martinez go for anything under 500k. She's got a contract through to 2028, I believe.
Yeah. And
then Cersei, who's at has just joined. No, she's at Freiburg, isn't she, Cersei?
I think so. I assume so. I'm seeing anywhere that she's moved.
Yeah, have a look.
But yeah, I think that United is a really difficult one because it's about finding that difference. I think they need to go out and get some players, but we know the reluctance to go out and spend big. But Hoffmann would be for me a decent alternative between the two. Not an extortionate or really high fee, but also spending Hoffenheim. But getting out and spending a bit of money and making a difference. I think the fans would just love. I mean, if there are any United fans, do get involved, but I'm sure they'd love to just see the fact that their side will sign someone for a bit of money. The Rolfo deal was absolutely brilliant, and we spoke about that last week. That's the kind of intent they need to keep up. They need to keep bringing players of that calibre, of that quality, and on that wage bill. Go out and put a bit of money behind the club, and suddenly they'll find themselves winning more and more trophies. Simple as that.
Yeah, Anthony says, a shame that Italian players don't seem to like playing abroad. Well, Linari's just gone to London City.
I love that. I absolutely love
think she could do well, and I think WSL will suit her. I think she's exactly the sort of physical centre-back that a side who should be nearer to the bottom, maybe pushing up the table throughout the season. But that's exactly the sort of signing that London City needed. They've got loads of centre-backs who are very tidy players, and lots of players are very tidy players, but having a bit of grit in there I think is really important. So, big fan of Linari going there. But I think broadly Italian players don't seem to like playing abroad. It's been common over the men's game for 50 years. And it's still the same thing in the women's game. There's much more of a tribal feeling about playing for your club in Italy.
Yeah.
So players don't tend to leave. But in terms of the players that Evo mentioned, as I say, probably all too expensive for United. I don't like to spend a transfer fee. I think if they were going to get Hoffmann, it'd probably be around 200,000. I'd say 200,000 maybe.
Yeah, which isn't terrible.
Aren't in a fantastic position negotiating wise. So I think I think she'll want the move, and I think United could pull it off at a decentish price.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not going to be the same as the Mead rumour, where we get this massive rumour, there's a lot of talk about it, and then suddenly it all dies down again. Hopefully, this will be a rumour for United that will persist, and there should be now a theme.
United haven't got long until the PSV game now. It's what, a few days next? Is it next week?
No. Remember, it's this. They've moved it. It's it's moved.
What do you mean?
Oh no, sorry. I'm thinking of the second qualifying round.
The PSV game is next Wednesday, or the Wednesday after.
It's not next Wednesday, surely. Oh, it might be next
27th, no?
Yeah, it is next Wednesday. Wow. Okay. Wow.
I didn't realise how close the season was, do you? Until you're planning.
No, but okay. Well, United aren't ready. United are not ready.
They're going to lose PSV.
They need to postpone that match. They're not ready to start the season. No, they've got enough to get through the qualifiers. That's the main thing. But that's the thing. As a manager, if I'm Mark Skinner, I'd want my squad to be settled before I played that qualifier. I'd want to not go into that qualifier knowing that my squad is as it is. We're going to try and keep everyone we can, unless any big sales happen, and that we're going to sign some good players. But not long to go now, so that they need to get that right, and they need to get a bit of a move on there before they end up getting caught out and left behind once again.
I think their first 11's good enough to get them through those qualifiers, but obviously that does have an impact on them being able to recruit players, because the management's going to be focusing on that game on the Wednesday, and then obviously on to the next game on the Saturday, which is how that Champions League qualification format works. So that's going to be a difficult time to then make transfers, but they do then have until Thursday the week after to look at potentially wrapping up any deals. But they'll want to have players in the door before Wednesday's match. Really, I think that's what they'll be looking to do. So that is important for United. What else have we got on our list of topics to talk about?
Well, we'll keep on the spending money idea, and staying in the WSL. Everton today having their bid for Ruby Mace rejected, a bid of £100,000, which is very exciting to see. Yes, obviously it did get rejected, so they haven't got Ruby Mace just yet, but I think this for me is more about the statement it sends right now about where Everton are, but also where the league is. That an Everton side who finished in the bottom half of the WSL last season are going out and they are prepared to be spending £100,000 on players. That is absolutely massive. We're speaking about United not wanting to spend 200, 300 grand. The fact that Everton are coming in and they've obviously had some brilliant windows, and they have gone, in January and this summer, they've gone about and thrown a bit of money around. But that, the majority of it was loans and frees. But the fact that it did get rejected. Yes, Ruby Mace is still a lesser player as it stands, but the fact they put that bid in is massive, because for me that is a big statement from Everton saying they're going to come out and play this season. They've gone out and made transfers, and now they want to spend the big bucks as we get closer to the season.
Yeah, I thought I really like Everton's move. I think the fact they've moved to Goodison Park, I think they may well believe that they can become a bit of a powerhouse if they can invest right, because Everton will view it as if they can spend £1 million and put themselves as like the 5th best side in the league and then go from there. They'll view Merseyside as a huge opportunity because of how little investments in the women's side. If you're a young Scouser at the moment and you can choose between Liverpool or Everton, and this Everton have got this huge stadium and it's their own ground and they're building a community there and they're signing all these young English players, it's a really exciting project. That is a more interesting watch than Liverpool. And if you're trying to entice someone to go one way or the other at the moment as they get into the sport, does it not feel that Everton could become more of a more enticing prospect as a supporter than someone like a Liverpool? And actually, to extend that, I don't think that City and United have done enough to establish a presence in the North. Do you think that they could, if they can invest right, is there still an opportunity someone could break the traditional top big four and become perhaps the third biggest side behind the two London clubs, Arsenal, Chelsea?
100%. Obviously, as I said earlier, Liverpool for me are a few big signings away from climbing up there. But Everton, the intent they've had this summer has been absolutely brilliant. And just to go on to that rival fact as well, in the men's game, Liverpool have been better than Everton for years and years and years and years and years. But even in the women's game, Everton leapfrogged Liverpool and started beating them pretty consistently. We saw the reaction when Everton beat Liverpool at Anfield on the last day of last season, and that was a brilliant result, and the fan base absolutely loved it. So I think that they will sense an opportunity, Everton, this season to jump everyone, definitely finish best of the rest, and who knows what they can do. This kind of money and this looking at players like Ruby Mace is absolutely crucial. I think that. I again, maybe this is where I think it's more of a statement, because yes, Ruby Mace is a brilliant player and £100 would be great, but to spend £100 on a player who has been out injured for the last few months is a big risk.
But is it capitalising while her value is probably the lowest it's ever going to be?
That is the other way to look at it, and maybe it's just a really smart bit of business. But Everton are a side now who clearly have the intent to spend and go out and make big transfers. They've gone and signed some brilliant players this summer. They've got Aguimang back on loan. No, that's Brighton. What on earth am I about? Kelly Gargo is the point I'm going to make. Again,
she's permanent.
No, not on loan. But in terms of the point we said about earlier about these brute strikers could really come into their own over the next couple of years.
Martina Fernandez, they've renewed her loan.
That's someone. But the fact that the reason why Gargo came into the league last year and did so well is because of that physicality. And again, if she can do that, then suddenly Everton look really, really good. They've got rid of some players I didn't think was good enough. Heather Payne's gone off to Leicester, and they've got rid of some players.
In return, they've got Mamiki, who I think is a really nice attacking option, better than someone like a Catches Nice.
They've made some great deals. Even Snoyce, they managed to start scoring goals towards the end of the season. That's a miracle.
Just let her take penalties.
Yeah, that is also true.
And he actually went down the edge of the box against Liverpool.
That is also true. But again, Everton, they did the league double over Liverpool last season. They were absolutely brilliant. In the second half of the campaign, they've got a manager in Sorensen who I think is a pretty decent coach and has some very good ideas. For me, with the intent and the spending that they've got, they could easily finish best of the rest of the season, and that would be a very promising thing for the club.
I think it's testament to how quickly football moves. That about 9 months ago, I thought he was going to lose his job, Brian Sorensen. Now I'd say he could finish fifth. Just how quickly things can change. But I think it's a lot of a good feeling. To speak specifically on Ruby Mace. I think it's a perfect move for Everton. Brilliant upgrade on what they've got in midfield. For Leicester, I think it would condemn them unless they replace her to being the bottom of the pack. I think they can still stay up.
Yeah.
But I think it would probably put them last this season.
Well, to be fair, they've got loads of defensive midfielders. They all just kept playing up front last year.
Yeah, but Takarada's gone now, and if Mace goes again, they've suddenly gone from having only defensive midfielders to no defensive midfielders.
And they've got all their forwards back, so it's good. And they have the same thing they did last season, in a different position. But yeah,
for Mace, do you think it's an upgrade for her?
Yeah, 100%. I think that Leicester's year was meant, and this is the thing to say, is that obviously I feel like we said what we're saying about Everton right now. We said similar things about Leicester last season. They brought in a very good coach. They had some brilliant signings on top of the players they already had at the club that were really good. and it was meant to be their year, and it all just fell apart, and the wheels fell off the wagon almost immediately. They got torn to shreds, and they had no chance of doing anything last season, and everyone got injured. So I think that now that set Leicester have been set back a year or two. So for Mace, it's an upgrade. I think that Everton clearly have a bit more intent and a bit more money to be around it in the women's side. So for Mace, it would make complete sense. And I think that it would mean that Everton have got some great midfield options in there. Some really good midfield options. And again, I think they do need something. They've let the likes of Claire Wheeler go. And that's what I mean. This is where I mean
Van Havermet.
that statement of intent. Letting Van Havermet and Wheeler go, but then going out and spending, $100,000 on Mace. That intent is absolutely brilliant, and that will get Everton places. I'm intrigued to see whether they go back in for Mace and how much more. Because clearly they're going to need more than $100,000.
The statement this morning, I can't remember the journalist now. I can try and have a look quickly, but the statement this morning was that Everton are pushing for Mace. They've had a bid rejected, but they are continuing to push. So that's it's going to be interesting to see whether they keep going. With that. How much do you think that they will have to spend to convince Leicester they should part with her?
Wow, I think Leicester want a lot. Not a lot, and I'm not saying stupid like $1 million, but I think that they will want probably double 200k at least to go and replace her. But yeah, I think Leicester will play hardball. It's how determined are Everton to get the deal done, and how important is it they get Mace? That will be the big question for me.
So this is from The Athletic. So Everton women, this was 12:52 today. Everton women are pursuing Leicester City defender. Not sure on that one. Midfielder, though, it should be. Ruby Mace, after a bid of 100,000 rejected earlier this month, Mace is entering the final year of her contract with Leicester and wasn't involved with them for a behind closed doors friendly against Sunderland on Thursday. So for Leicester, is it very much... Do they just sell her this summer around 200,000 rather than lose her for nothing next year?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things in there. I think that behind her missing the behind closed doors friendlies is potentially because she's just not fully fit yet, and they don't want to get her back to
fit at all.
Ready to play. But yeah, if she's in her final year, 100% take $100,000 for her. Run with it, take it and run with it.
Do you think they can get 200? Possibly.
Yeah, but this is where the big problem comes. If they don't get 200, they lose it for free, and that is then $100,000 lost.
Yeah, the other thing I really like about Everton's business is that they've got a lot of Prem-proven players.
Yes.
Not Prem, WSL-proven players. Signings like Mas Pacheco, Katie Robinson, signings like Martina Fernandez, who was there last season. Yeah. Ruby Mace is following the same thinking. Mamiki, the same sort of thing. Obviously, they've also taken some gambles. I think Kitagawa, though, will come across and adapt really nicely, so I won't be too concerned there. But a lot of their business has been players who've proven at WSL level, who understand the league, and I think, therefore, should adapt really nicely. Whereas you look at, like, London City, everyone's assuming they're going to come in and do really well. But who's to say those players are going to do well in the WSL? A lot of them either have never played in the WSL before or played in the WSL 5 years ago, and it's a completely different league.
Yes.
So I think in those examples, I wouldn't be 100% they're just going to come in and do really well.
Yeah, for me, Everton have the main principles. They have the spine of a very, very good side. They've got a good shot stopper in Courtney Brosnan, who can keep the ball out of the net. They've got centre halves who are good at defending, but also are good on the ball and are comfortable under pressure. We saw how even like against Chelsea, they tried to play out the back, and it worked for a bit of the first half, and they got trounced. But there were some positives there. They've got a pivot now. They've got, looking at that midfield, they have got so many options in there. If they get Mace, that's brilliant. But they've got Hayashi, they've got Hayley Ladd, they've got players who can play in that central area and do a very, very good job. They've got a striker in Gargo who's absolutely brilliant, and for me could put up some incredible numbers next year. So for that, they've got the spine of a team that are absolutely brilliant.
And Mamiki, who could support that. Katie Robinson, who can now play as the winger. And I think Tony Payne, with quality players around her, I think her output will be increased. So I think things are looking really positive for Everton this summer. I have just been Googling things and not checking the live chat. I've now got a lot of things to talk through. Ryzen has asked, you guys watching the Ajax game? We're thinking about it still. Let us know, actually, if you're watching along. Get involved in the live chat now. Do you want us to cover that game? Because we can't do the Saturday game due to prior commitments. We're going to watch Chelsea vs AC Milan at Kings Meadow.
The PSV game.
So we can watch the PSV game on the Wednesday.
That's what the Ajax game.
Oh, don't know. Chelsea Ajax. That's already happened, isn't it?
Yeah.
Chelsea Ajax. Oh yeah, we didn't watch that, but you watched a bit of it, didn't you?
Did I?
I think you did. Anyway, I didn't watch much of it, but I will try and watch back at some point because I'm intrigued to see. But I do know they played a 4-3-3 Chelsea.
Yes.
So
Gareth scored. That was big. That was big.
Hopefully we'll see more of that this season. But Michael Merton asking, hi lads, how do you think Palace women's recruitment has gone thus far? Really, really good actually. I think Lola Brown's a fantastic signing. I think I want to put up the full signings now so we can go through them. But I think she's a player who will do incredibly well there. And Palace have a record of bringing Chelsea players through well. So as a Chelsea fan, really happy about that one. And I think she is a top talent. We saw that make it when she made her debut last summer. I just want to pull up the transfer tracker to have a look. If you're not aware, probably the best place to go to keep up with transfer news is Guys on the Ball WSL Transfer Tracker. They do a great job of keeping us up to date. And to be honest, I'm not sure how else would keep up with all the news that comes out. But Palace so far have added Justine Van Havermet. Again, WSL proven, stepping down will do really well there. So I think that's a really nice move. Jamie Lee Napier, I think I've seen people saying she's a really exciting player.
Okay.
I have to say I don't watch enough Championship to be able to, or WSL 2 now to be able to comment. But from what I've seen online, a lot of people are very excited about that.
Yeah.
Lola Brown in on loan, Emma Watson in on loan. I think that's a good move for her.
Wow.
But after she spent last season on loan at Everton, that does feel like a step down as well.
Yeah, it does. I think that that's a weird one for me. I'm surprised she's gone there, but what Palace are doing is they're doing very, very well. They're doing exactly what they need to do. It's very easy when you get relegated to go back down and just go, oh, we've still got a good side, we'll go back up easy. But no, they've been really smart about it. They've gone and improved. For me, and this is what will frustrate Palace fans, and Pittle might agree, if you are a Palace fan, do say, but they're the kind of signs they needed when they were in the WSL last year. Why didn't they go and sign those players last year to try and keep them in the league? Well, I think the side they built for this championship season looks better than the side that came up last season. And that, for me, makes no sense.
They've lost Mila Gelge.
That's a big one.
Was a bit of a miss. Katrina Vea didn't have a great season. Ria Erling, bit of a miss. Clarissa Larissy and Katie Stengel struggled to have any impact. They've both gone back to the NWSL. Izzy Atkinson's gone to Sunderland. I don't think she played for them in the WSL though. So broadly, bar Ria Erling and Mila Gelge, I think that's a really positive window. They've replaced both those players as well, with Van Havermet able to play defence midfield or centre back, Lola Brown had to play out wide, and Watson able to play that attack midfield role. They've covered a lot of those positions with what they've done. So, yeah, I think they've had a really, really solid window so far. So I think they'll look at the Championship as very a league they can compete in. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of other teams that are strong. Newcastle this summer, Jordan Nobbs, Aoife Mannion. And then some signings from within the league as well, signing Gemma Perfield and Molly Pike from Southampton. I think that's already positive stuff. So Ipswich Town, huge amount of investment there, taking a lot of players from other clubs. So Southampton must have no one left because another two of theirs have gone to Ipswich Town as well. And what Ipswich has done very well is take players. So they were in the National League. A lot of their players then got moved up to the WSL 2 or the Women's Championship. Now it's WSL 2. Ipswich Town got promoted last season. They're now in the WSL 2 and just bringing all those players back in. So quite smart. They're already going to be familiar with the setup and stuff. Things seem to be really positive there. So I think it's going to be really interesting next season. The Championship, obviously Newcastle looking strong. Charlton, Durham, they'll all be looking to kick on.
That's it.
A lot of investment.
It's genuinely, it's going to be a brilliant fight. And it's obviously we've got that weird playoff thing happening this year where whoever finishes second will play. Sorry, no, whoever finishes
third will play bottom of the WSL.
Yes, sorry, that is so that one's gonna be interesting because of the competition involved in that. I think that third place team could be pretty good, and then suddenly that puts pressure on the WSL side. But yeah, I'm glad that finally that we have three possible opportunities. There's a chance that three teams will get promoted. Definitely two will go up. That's exactly what it needs because we're listing there. For me, I think we're going to see a great fight between Birmingham, Newcastle, Ipswich, and Charlton. I think those four are going to put on a really good fight. Yeah,
but it's the other thing of just having more games in the WSL, which I think is really important for growth. More coverage of the country playing at the highest level. I know obviously there's not too many Newcastle, but if Newcastle got up there, that's a whole area of the UK where there isn't really anyone.
Yeah, I mean, they look at them. Look at Newcastle making brilliant waves. They smashed the WSL 2 attendance at 35,000. 35,000 people in attendance would have been impressive for a WSL game last season. That's the kind of numbers they're putting up. So it's definitely a league to not be slept on. There's going to be a great fight next season. Last season's obviously battle between Birmingham and London City on the final day was absolutely fantastic. So last year was a massive season for the WSL2. This season though, I think could be even better, and it's going to be another really good fight. And obviously for Palace, I forgot Palace when I mentioned the teams in the fight, but yeah, Birmingham, Palace, Newcastle, and Ipswich for me will be the four front runners. Durham and Charlton will be following just behind them, and I think it's going to be a league to keep your eyes on, because it will chop and change. It's very much one of those leagues where the side that top the league for the first 5 weeks could find themselves in 6th come match week 10.
Yeah, fair enough. Just scrolling through the live chat, seeing if there's anything else to touch on. Apparently, the PSV game is Wednesday morning.
Morning?
Doesn't surprise me. They have done that in the past, because what they have to do is they fly all 4 teams to the same place and then play 2 matches. So that probably, it's fun qualification system, isn't it?
I don't like it. Football in the morning, on a midweek morning. What a silly time to play football. But it is a weird qualification. It's like they turn it into pre-season tournaments. That's not what qualifiers should be. Qualifiers should be taken like serious competitive games, not just 4 teams turn up at a neutral venue and have a kick.
I hate the format as well, because it gives such an advantage to one team.
Yeah.
Which it shouldn't. It should be a 2-legged affair, one at home, one away, given equal footing. Teams like Manchester United should have an advantage anyway, because they're Manchester United.
I've never known a competition to have the first qualifying round so different to the second qualifying round.
Yeah.
The second qualifying round, they do it right.
It's normal.
Yeah, they play it either side of the thing. Why do they then play it weirdly in the next qualifying round? Makes no sense to me. Because
and then the Europa Cup, it's just so difficult to work out who's actually going to be in it. I'm just going to wait till January when they start playing the matches.
It feels so half-assed. I don't even think UEFA have an idea of how that's going to be played.
I think they're just going to invite some teams and let them play some.
2-legged final. Yeah. Dear oh dear, that is terrible.
I do agree. I think.
But anyway, I'm not going to rant about that again. But I feel like. How did we even get to the qualifiers? I don't know.
There's a message in the live chat. So that's what we were. That's what we were touching on. No, saying I saw the new WSL logo onto the stream. Dia says I saw the new WSL logo. Absolutely atrocious. Why is a Canadian woman in charge of the women's game in England? I don't have a problem with people from different countries being in charge of the league, but I do think there's a lot of decisions Nikki Doucette and whatever they've decided to call themselves now. I like WPLL. I remember that as the name, so I'm sticking with that. I don't know what they've just. I think is it WSL Co or something like that?
Yeah. No idea.
WPLL. Some of the decisions they made are stupid. I can't understand the logo change. I can't understand the colour change.
Yeah, look at this
Why
orange.
have we gone from this is the new branding that we're having to change all of our thumbnails now?
I want the purple back. I love the purple. The
and
purple's
instead,
brilliant.
What they've done is, rather than stick with the branding of the WSL and the Championship, they've taken the colour of the WSL, and that's now the WSL 2, which is purple.
Terrible.
I made the WSL orange. I just don't understand.
Why don't you make the WSL 2 orange?
Or keep it light green.
Make everything purple. Just keep it. I like the purple.
I hate the WSL 2.
We've got this orange. Yeah, WSL 2 just...
Championship was fine.
Yeah, what's the word? It's like... It makes the league look bad.
It looks inferior.
Yeah.
We've got, in the Premier League, there's a Premier League 2. They are the under-23s teams. And that is fine. WSL2, put all the under-23 teams in, lovely. But the WSL2 being the Championship, the second division...
It diminishes the quality.
It's like League 1, League 2. But it's not, because it's Women's Super League, which, big and grand. Women's Super League 2, not as big and grand.
No.
Sounds more like an American thing. I don't like it. Don't like it at all. It's just, it used to be called the WSL 2. They then changed it to the Women's Championship because they realised that was a bad idea.
More progressive.
And then they've just gone back on that decision.
Yeah.
The logo isn't a logo. It's just a circle
with some lines,
and then it breaks it apart.
I could have made that.
Again, the old WSL logo was nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Pentagon looking thing. Yeah, lovely. Did the job. Why you need to change it?
I know. It's like rather than enacting actual change, what we're going to do is just mess things that don't matter as much.
But also, I don't think the WPLL realise what a big announcement is. They've done 2 big announcements so far. Yeah. One of them was this rebranding that looks rubbish, and the other one was Sam Kerr playing football on a rooftop.
and then when they announced that they were changing the entire format of the league, they did it like a random Thursday without telling anyone.
Just so bizarre. I don't want to watch the Dosel players play on the roof. I don't want to see that rebranded. I want proper announcements that are going to change the game and pull together the women's game and get it to thrive. Changing the colour to orange doesn't do that. That's my problem with it.
It doesn't get me more excited about women's football.
I don't look at this and go, wow, you're going to get so many people coming across the Dosel now because it's orange.
Yeah, and as Obadiah says, the logo is fairly atrocious. I don't really see the point, but there you go. Eddie says, which of you two lives longer in a zombie apocalypse? I think that is where we're at in the show now.
Wow.
We've got other things to talk about, which we will get to.
Yes.
But who do you think would live longer?
Me. I'd be so much smart about it.
But I think you'd be too smart. I think I would befriend a zombie or something.
Yeah,
I'll get them on my side. No, and then I'll mobilise.
This is stupid because you just take things out of the situation. Like that is not a part of the equation. Is it you become one of them, but not one of them?
I think they'd respect me.
Right. What?
There we go.
Rubbish.
What else have we got to talk about?
We were touching on new changes in the DSL, so we might as well touch on the new rule change that's come in. Okay. The 8-second goalkeeper rule. Now, for the majority, well, not for the majority actually, I think the minority have completely understood the rule and have got it. It has frustrated me a little bit, the amount of people that don't really seem to get what it is, why it's in, or what the point of it is. Now, the first thing that caught me out was the amount of people that were shocked that it was also coming into the women's game. Why would the FA implement a rule just for the men's game? Why would they not do it in all football?
Wouldn't surprise me.
But
to be fair,
so for starters, this the rule is implemented in all forms of football, men's, women's, youth. Doesn't matter if you play in England, you play a league in England.
11-a-side, it should be specified.
Well, no, not even that. Youth football overall.
I'm sorry, not 5-a-side.
Yeah, not mini soccer.
Goals. Or not.
No.
If you're going to make a go at goals, you can.
I don't think the goalkeepers had to use their hands at goals, let alone pick it up for the whole of less than 8 seconds. But yeah, it's going to be implemented all up and down the leagues. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to offer something different. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see how well it will be implemented. So the problem I have with it personally is that it's another rule that's very variable. So the countdown for the 8 seconds doesn't actually start until the referee deems that the goalkeeper has full uncompetitive control of the football. So that is very variable. Uncontested, that's the word I was looking for. Uncontested control of the ball. That's very variable because some referees will see the goalkeeper pick it up and go straight away, they've got the ball. Some referees, especially if it's from a corner, if a goalkeeper picks it up and they're lying on the ground and there's players around them, so, the referee's not going to start the timer. And it's going to be an interesting one. The first 3 seconds the referee counts in their head, which I don't know how you can judge that. That's really weird. And then we should see the goalkeeper be given that 5-second countdown in the air. Some refs will enforce it, some refs won't. It's as simple as that. It's going to be very
referee will.
I think I know a referee will. But that's the thing. The referees who ref by the law are going to enforce it, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it changes the game. It's just going to be how sincerely it is enforced. But what you want to see, realistically, we should go into next season where we see the goalkeeper picks the ball up, and once they've got full control of it, you get that 8 seconds and bang, straight away it's a corner. That's all it should be. All it should be is the referee goes, keeper's got the ball, 1, 2, 3, and then they start the 5 seconds, and the keeper can kick it, bang, corner. No deliberation, no, it was 8.5 seconds, so I'm going to let them off a bit. That's not how it should work, but hopefully it's enforced. As you say, the referees who like to referee by the book, the heat, if you like
He slip.
if it's an Emily He slip, or if it's a Kirsty Dowie, then we're going to see it will be enforced. It will be the newer refs coming through. It will be the referees coming up to WSL 2 from the WSL 2, because there are a few who got promoted this year, and it will be the referees who would like to let the game flow that I think will be more reluctant to enforce the rule. But for me, it's a positive change that should happen. It's the aim of the rule isn't to give away more corners. The aim of the rule is to get the ball back in play and get the game moving quickly. So hopefully that's what we see happen. But for me, it's a massive positive to have the rule introduced.
He also says, I just feel like this rule won't apply to Chelsea. Oh, controversy. I feel like it won't apply to Arsenal. But it's one of those. I think my more interesting take on it, or what I'm more interested to see, because I don't care about refs, But I do care about how this is going to impact the game, because I think what we're going to see is a lot more fast breaks.
Yes.
Because goalkeepers are going to be encouraged to throw that ball earlier and move it on quicker. And I think we'll see more fast break goals. In the Premier League this weekend, I think it was 12 goals from fast breaks.
Yes,
I want to say. And that was the first weekend we've seen it. And that is astronomically high to what we're used to. And I think, again, causation, correlation, stuff like that, it's a very small sample size. We can't judge too massively yet. But I think what we will see this season, or my hypothesis, is that we'll see goalkeepers throw that ball quicker, and we'll see teams encouraged to break away quicker. And I think we will see more fast breaks. The other thing I think is that this is naturally a rule that is going to benefit the top clubs, because the top clubs don't hold on to the ball for long anyway. I mean, obviously Alisson was allowed to continuously, and he wasn't punished. And that's the other thing; they won't be punished for the rule. The top clubs.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to punish the smaller sides who are trying to slow the game down more. So I don't necessarily love it for that reason, but I think it could speed the game up. It could make it very transitional, which will benefit. I'm just trying to think of which side would that benefit. Probably Villa.
Yeah.
City
potentially.
If Yeglets does what he wants to do,
that is true.
Could benefit them. So yeah, maybe that'd be very interesting. Could have an impact. But the other thing I'm interested in is how it could affect the culture. I think rather than dodgy keeper, I'm thinking 100 style comes up on the big screens, 8, and everyone goes 8, 7, 6, 5, and then if the goalkeeper lets go away, I think that I'm very interested to see if we get a bit of that, bit of counting with the ref.
Yeah,
speed her up a bit. 8, 7 before she's doing it.
I think that's the main thing for me, is why the reason I like the rule. So obviously it does only apply from when the goalkeeper has it in their hands.
I feel like there'll be a lot of misconceptions on that, because again, that's such an interpretive rule.
Because the rules around goal kick are still very variable. Now that one's always been 6 seconds, but that I never really count that rule, because again, there's no demonstration of that counting happening, and the referee can't just judge it based on how long they are taking. But with this rule, you will see the referee start the count. There will be a visual demonstration that the referee is counting and is going to hurry up the goalkeeper. The amount of times from goal kicks you stand there, and I mean the goal kicks will still be a problem, I think, but at least from kicking from hands, goalkeepers can't just fall over, sit on it for 15 seconds, and then just smash it up the pitch. That won't happen.
Yeah. The other thing which could be interesting is, are there any teams in WSL who are very good at defending corners and very good at breaking on the counter? Because what they could do is goalkeeper just holds it, stands there all day waiting for the 8 seconds. The other team has to come up and take a corner. You're just going to knob this away, counter-attack. Could they start to mobilise it?
Potentially.
That could be really fun.
Yeah,
if we see teams deliberately holding onto the ball, waiting for corners so they can clear them away.
I think the other team would then, because then this is the other thing to put into it as well, is that obviously this is where I think also where the big clubs will come into. This is where the big clubs come into it, but also the wit of the goalkeeper, because if the referee starts the count and they deem the goalkeeper to get interrupted, then the count resets. So if you're a goalkeeper, if you can hold it for 6 seconds and then try and demonstrate that a player's got in your way so you couldn't release it, the referee will then set the time back to 0, and then suddenly you win yourself another 8 seconds. So I think it's going to be down to which goalkeepers are really smart about it, because you could, if you say you claim it from a corner, you could sit on it for 4 seconds and then get up, try and take it, moan that the striker's in the way, and then the referee will reset the count and you gain your 8 seconds back. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's all going to come down to who can be the most crafty. It's going to come down to gamesmanship as well from the goalkeepers and stuff. Some goalkeepers will really bend the rules, and I think some refs will fail to pick up on that. So it's going to be something that will frustrate. But I think the bit that's annoyed me so far is the people who are don't really understand what it's going to come into. I get that obviously it's a bit joking, it's a bit thingy when Pittle says it's going to favour certain teams, but I think it's very difficult to do that because it will be obvious. Like if Heaslip isn't doing the count for Arsenal, that is going to be obvious that she's not doing that. If certain refs aren't doing it for Chelsea, you'll be able to literally see that and it will get called out. So I think it's one of those things where it will be obvious or not whether the referee is doing it. So if certain teams are getting away with it, everyone will be able to see, and it will be very decisive.
As Obadiah says, no goalkeeper will be stupid enough to hold it while they can see the ref visibly counting.
Yeah.
the only reason that's the thing, as you said earlier, it's not to give more corners. The reason we're doing it's not because we want to see more corners.
Yeah.
It's to speed the ball coming back into play, and I think naturally that's going to benefit the top sides. I think we'll see a slight favour towards them winning games.
Yeah,
and then a slight favour towards goals scored on fast breaks. Would be my hypothesis off the rule.
Yeah, the other thing I have seen across the Football League is that, while obviously the men's game have been introducing it, and it's been interesting because you mentioned the fast breaks there, but it also comes down to people forgetting and then rushing it, and that can cost you and I think that could be very interesting because if you're up against a high pressing side and you're a goalkeeper and you get to 5 or 6 seconds and you go, oh my days, I need to release the ball, and you just roll it to your centre half, if you're up against a side like Brighton, they could be right onto you and suddenly you've given the ball away and you've cost yourself a goal. So I think it's going to go both ways, where goalkeepers will release it quicker and break away and score a goal from it, but also goalkeepers may be forced to rush it and then make those errors, and then suddenly I think we'll get more goals from it. I think we'll 100% get more goals from it.
That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's meant to get the ball in play, and it will cut down on added time. Hallelujah! I don't want to sit there after a game and have to watch another 9 minutes of football because Hannah Hampton and Valentine's Choice are rolling around on the football. It will speed the game up. It will get it moving, and I just hope it's consistent.
There's going to be some big decision which everyone gets mental at, like Keating's holding the ball in the opener at 1-1. She's holding it for 7 seconds. It gets given as a corner. Chelsea then score from the corner. Something like that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's that for me is the other thing, that people have to go off the referee. I don't want to see people going, the ref gave a corner, but the Van Domselaar only held the ball for 7.87 seconds.
I was there with my stopwatch in front of the TV, and that was actually 7.99.
Oh my days, this one wasn't given as a corner when the goalkeeper held it for 8.07. The referee isn't going to. It's just going to be off judgment.
Especially because it's so interpretive as to when the goalkeeper has full control of the ball. Again, this is always my problem with rules, and they're difficult to make, but it's so open to interpretation because you can just sort of twist it any way you want to favour your points. So, full control of the ball. Is that holding the ball? Again, that all comes down to how the ref interprets it. And every ref will interpret it differently. So, that'll be fun. We've got half an hour. Anything else to touch on, Harry? I think we've still got some things to talk about.
Have we?
Oh, we may have finished our topic list.
That's our list.
Great to hear. But if anyone has anything that they want us to discuss for another half an hour, let us know. We'll get into it. Monster Ash saying, love to hear the whole stadium countdown. I'm well up for that. I'm going to get that started now when we go to Kings Meadow next Saturday.
But again, things like that would then cause more problems because the count would never be in time with the referee.
No. But the ref will feel pressure to give it.
Yeah, that is true.
I was reading a book on data analysis in football the other day, and there was a bit on refereeing, and there is a referee's bias to home games, which I thought was really interesting.
That makes sense.
It's quite a significant bias of about 20-30%, I think, in terms of decisions, because they did a test where they showed two sets of referees. So there was a game of football, and they showed two sets of referees every contentious decision in that game. But with one set of the referees, they played the crowd noise, and on the other, they didn't play any crowd noise. When they didn't play any crowd noise, they favoured the home team less.
Wow.
And when they did play the crowd noise, not only did they favour the home team more with their decisions, but also they made almost identical decisions to the referee on the day.
Wow.
So I thought that was very interesting to see that there is a correlation, at least there, at least showing the data that at home games referees are much more swayable.
Yeah, it's going to be so frustrating. It's going to be but again, I think that there will be more accountability behind it because it will be more cut and dry than other rules. Because if a referee gets to 1, puts their finger down, and the goalkeeper hasn't kicked it, they have no choice because everyone will see the fact that they've got to 0 and the goalkeeper hasn't released the ball. Again, it is also a proper release of it. It isn't that if they throw it, the kicking motion has to have started really before the 8 seconds is up. You can't get to 8 seconds and then throw the ball in the air to drop kick it. You have to get rid of it quicker than that. But yeah, I think that it will be a good rule. I think it's a good rule, and I think it will work. I just think it will catch a lot of people out because A, people will forget about it. B, it will be a frustrating one for goalkeepers because they will feel like they're ready to go, and then suddenly that will be it. And there'll be some goalkeepers will say, "Well, actually, you started it before I had control of the ball." So it will be frustrating for some people, but I think on the whole, it should do a good job. And I think hopefully we just see across the board, we just see some better officiating standards this year because I thought last year was bad, and yes, it did. I always believe personally that decisions even out across the season. I thought Man City got unlucky with a couple, but then look at the penalty they got against Arsenal at the Joey. You know, they got a penalty for being outside the box. Everton, they got that controversial penalty against Liverpool, but again, I thought they had some decisions that went against them last season. So yeah, I think that it's one of those where it will bad decisions. Referees do even themselves out across the season, but that's not how you want it to do. What you want to happen is that everyone, it's a good decision from everyone all round. But yeah, I think that I'm intrigued to see how they'll all be implemented, and hopefully we just see some better officials. We saw some terrible calls again. Chelsea got lucky. I think there were a few decisions that definitely went against in Chelsea's favour, but then look at the goal that Tottenham scored that didn't cross the line at the King's Meadow. So again, it evens itself out, and I think that even if the momentum of the game is dictated by the small decisions, I'm just hoping that my biggest problem that I'll say right now is the big decisions are so wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, if a tackle happens half a yard outside the penalty area and the referee gives a penalty, that's okay. But we saw some last year where the tackle was made 2 or 3 yards outside the line, and that shouldn't be happening. So I just hope that even if the little decisions are maybe sometimes wrong, I can get on with that. I just hope that the big decisions next season are more correct, and the referees are going to get them more right.
Will says we need goal line tech in the WSL. I do agree. It's just the feasibility, really, isn't it? Again, most stadiums would accommodate for it, but it's the cost of having to implement it.
Yeah,
it's a whole other system you've got to have, and then you've got to link it up to the referees being able to use it and the watches and stuff. So it's not just as simple as you think of just we'll put a camera in the goal and there we go. It's sorted. You have it's a whole system to set up, and that does take time and investment.
Because even if say, I'm trying to think of a team that play, say West Ham wanted to put it in at Dagenham's ground. They do play at Dagenham, don't they? If they wanted if they wanted to put it in the Joe Construction Stadium, West Ham got the money to put that in, but it's not up to them. They'd have to Dagenham would have to pay for it and put it in, and they're not going to do that. So until the WSL sides are all playing permanently at the men's grounds, I don't think we'll get it, simply because you can't ask a National League side to put it in their stadium, because they won't do that, because why on earth would they do that?
Or you've got to pay them to.
Or you've got to pay them to.
And then that disrupts Dagenham being able to host games, because they've got this whole thing being set up. So it's just one of those things. It's going to have to take a lot of investment for it, and everyone has to be on board. So it's more difficult to implement than it should be. Hopefully, we'll see a lot of teams move towards grounds that can over the next few years. I mean, we've already seen Arsenal now are permanently at the Emirates. We've got Everton at Goodison Park. You'd like to hope Chelsea will move to Stamford Bridge. I think that the goal for Chelsea has to be that either both sides are playing at Stamford Bridge, or that Chelsea men are going to build a new stadium, and Stamford Bridge will be resized similar to Goodison Park for the women's side, which would be incredible, because I think that Stamford Bridge is such an iconic venue. But as a Chelsea fan, I was huge sentimental meaning, and I think it would be really nice to keep that as part of the women's game, and it's much more convenient for me to get to as well. So on a personal note, I would love if they did that. Phil with a couple of NWSL related questions, which we'll try our best with, saying over to Orlando. I really like Elizabeth Hopal. She profiles really nicely. I don't know if she's worth 1.5 million or pounds or $2 million, but especially for a player with 6 months left in her contract, that I don't understand at all. But I guess they wouldn't have got her if they didn't spend that money now, because she'll just go to Barcelona on a free in January. So I like that she's decided to make that move. It's a bold one, but an NWSL club signing a player who's coveted by most of Europe, it's a statement of intent, but it just feels like spending money that, did they need to spend that money?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Again, we see it a lot, and it's not necessarily a terrible thing, spending money for statements, but I agree. That was a bit of a weird one. There'll be a big wage behind it. I think she's a very, very talented player, and hopefully she goes out there and does very, very well. A great talent, and obviously, still... That's the thing. There's still time for her to come across to Europe if she wants to in the next few years, and come over to some of the best sides in the world. But obviously America, the NWSL is still a very, very good league. But I think she'd want to test herself in Europe as well. The problem with though is because Orlando have now paid that money, they will not settle for less. So unless she now develops into one of the world's best players,
that's the thing. I think she will,
and she probably will. That is true. So That's the thing. She's broke the record now, but I think that she could also break the record in the future if she wants to go over to Europe. Maybe that time, in that by that point we could be looking at 3, 4, 5 million, and that would be absolutely massive to see that happening for the game.
I think it's just difficult, isn't it, because of how quickly the game is evolving in terms of finances.
Yeah,
I would consider One-Man Team Puteas £2 million players.
True.
And that's only 500k less for a player with 6 months left in their deal, who's unproven in major leagues. It's very difficult to say that they've made much about it. If she comes and does really well, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did have an email which I will with a topic for this show.
Okay.
So I'm not encouraging people to email me. I do not want thousands of emails. But if you do have something for the show and you, for whatever reason, don't want to put it in the YouTube community tab, then that is also an option. They asked, lovely coverage on YouTube. Just wanted to put that out there first. Could you possibly discuss broadcast rights to WSL? It's quite confusing at this stage going into this season, especially as it changed so much since last year. So we can talk about that. So this season, whole new rights package. Nothing on YouTube. Oh well, 1 game a week on YouTube. 1 game a week on BBC. 5 on Sky Sports. Let's start with the pros. A lot of investment into the league.
Yeah.
A lot more eyes potentially on it from fans who watch general sport.
Yeah.
That for me feels like a massive positive.
Yeah, 100%. As you say, first of all, the investment into the league is absolutely superb. It's exactly, obviously a lot of people will be annoyed about it, but that money is what keeps leagues ticking over. The best leagues across the men's game. Why are they so profitable? Because there is money involved there.
It's all off of broadcast rights.
Look how much the Liga F is currently struggling right now, because as of today, they still haven't got the zone to re-sign the deal to broadcast that league, and they could be in big trouble as a league if they don't get a broadcaster, because they're going to have to find one out of nowhere. But the WSL, massive funding from Sky Sports, absolutely brilliant to see them putting that money into it, and exactly what the league needs. And as you say, obviously a lot of people do complain about the prices of those subscriptions nowadays. But
I complain about that as well.
But the thing is, if you already pay for it, you look at it as you get more. You're getting more. More games for the amount of money you're spending. So if you are buying that Sky package, if you're a Premier League fan, you've bought the Sky package and you see that your Chelsea women are on, you're more likely to chuck it on because you think, I'm paying for it, I might as well put it on, and they'll watch it and enjoy the game because it's a very, very good game of football. But I think that it's massive for the growth of the league. It's exactly what it needs. I don't think it will impact audiences that much. Obviously, people throw their toys out the pram, but it's a necessity to grow a football league. You have to have broadcast money. If you're not, you don't get anywhere. So Pitt will be annoyed, but I don't think it will change the eyes on it, because if you're a football fan, you've already got Sky Sports. If you're a sports fan, you've already got it. And if you love watching the WSL that much, you will pay for it.
It does impact, though, on those people who only watch the women's sport. Do you think there is room... I saw someone talk about this for the Premier League the other day, and I think it's something that would be much more applicable to the WSL, where there are people who don't watch all of Sky Sports, but do want to watch the Women's Super League. Do you think that a in-house service... Obviously, you've got the costs involved with setting that up and making sure that you've then got everything involved. And obviously, that's going to cost a lot of money. But if we put that aside, they make $65 million on a 5-year deal from Sky Sports and BBC, the WSL.
I mean, I want to know who signed that 5-year deal. Why on earth would you make it 5 years? I know you want security, but what you've gone and done is you've boxed yourself in.
That's about $13 million a season.
Yeah, and that runs through for quite a while. That runs through the next few years.
So if they wanted to, so if you put that into layman's terms, you would have to find a way of funding about 1 million people on an £18 a month deal.
Yeah.
To access the Women's Super League, and that's why it's quite difficult then when you view that sort of thing. But if you think about it globally, would 1 million people pay £18 a month? I think you can make it even cheaper and try and encourage more people, and you do then make that money. So I think there's options. Obviously, you can put more with your own broadcast package. You can do whatever you want. Obviously, being locked to Sky Sports and BBC, they have executive rights and stuff. So I think there's pros and cons. I think with the Sky Sports deal, it's good, but it's a shame about how much it's behind. I think they have to put it behind a paywall in order to make money.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's a shame it's behind a Sky Sports paywall, which is so expensive, and that will price a lot of fans out. The other thing is that Sky Sports' scheduling is designed for the men's game, and that is not really fair on fans of just the WSL. It's perfect for someone like myself, and there'll be a lot of fans who like watching the men's game, and so to have a 12 o'clock kickoff, I would much rather cover and watch the WSL matches than Scottish football. But for young girls who want to play in the morning and then go to a game, they can't, because their kickoff at 10 o'clock or an 11 o'clock. And that completely makes it impossible for them to go and watch their side. So I just find that they are really... The audience they're trying to attract is the audience they are pushing out.
Yeah, I get that from my point of view. It's a difficult one because obviously people like when the game's on YouTube, but for me, the quality of that was shocking. That was not good. And this is my...
You've got to find a balance.
Yeah, you cannot... People will say it, but you cannot put it on YouTube. It is not good enough for a sport to have that, because for me, the quality was horrendous last season on YouTube. They had one commentator. They only had one commentator for all the games, and they couldn't pronounce half the names right. And the commentary was on delayed footage. Everyone noticed that, but the commentator was a good 2 seconds behind the actual footage of the game. So that was poor. Having only one camera when you're watching some of the best sides in women's football is not good enough. So the reason it's on Sky is because Sky can provide this quality broadcast where you've got a brilliant panel of people who know what they're talking about most of the time. They've got commentators, they've got the infrastructure, they're at the game, they've got dozens of cameras on the match. It's exactly what quality of content that the women's game needs. So, yeah, it's really difficult to find a balance between really good content but for a good price. Because, yeah, I agree, it is difficult for people who don't quite have the money to pay for Sky Sports. But at the end of the day, without it, the quality and the content and the money would not be good enough for the WSL.
I think they're stuck behind a rock and a hard place, really, the WSL, because you either end up with not enough broadcast money coming in, or you end up with... but then you put a situation the other side where there's a lot of fans that it will be inaccessible for the season, and it's difficult, really, in both ways. Sky have monopolised it, focusing more on money than the consumer. As our season, I think we could see more games shown in sports bars and pubs, though, possibly. But again, it's so difficult now because a lot of bars and pubs, especially, it's getting a bit away from women's football, but I think it's an interesting discussion. But especially with how the way the state of the economy in the UK is that people are drinking less. Young people are drinking less alcohol and socialising less. So pubs aren't making money. So then pubs can't afford those licenses, which means that then that falls back on the consumers who are, to then have to foot the bill to buy those. It's a very difficult situation, but I think we're going to see more people push towards piracy because that is the easier way to go. If you can buy a doggy stick for 60 quid a year, it's much cheaper than buying Sky Sports at 25 a month.
I still think they've got it wrong this year, though. The solution is to not split it. What on earth have they done this year? Giving BBC one game, I don't mind that. That's fine. At least there will be one game a week that people can watch for free, and that is fine. But what is the point in making Sky pay all this money and making all these people pay for Sky, and then just putting one of the Sky games on YouTube?
I think it's good that there's still 2 games a week which are free to air. It's never going to be the biggest match. That's always going to be the Sky pick, and so that's going to push people to have to buy Sky if they want to watch the biggest games, which obviously is a tough situation, but
make your decision.
That is how it goes.
If you want to move away from YouTube, but YouTube, do it completely. Don't just... just got so many fingers in every pie at the moment. Just pick a pie and eat it. There's so many different things going on.
The flip side is, could we see fans who are unable now to attend the WSL match, which obviously isn't great, but could we see them push towards grassroots, where investment and fan base and interest is desperately needed?
Yeah, I think the problem is we are in a horrible scenario right now where you can't grow it is important that all parts of the women's game grow, from grassroots right up to senior level, but I don't think you can do that all at once, because, as you say, you can't get an audience for all 3 at the same time, because they're all going to clash, because it's football. Everything clashes in football, so it is a difficult scenario. But you don't want one of them to fall by the wayside. You don't want to have a brilliant grassroots and have all these great footballers coming through, but they've got nowhere to play because the clubs at the top level aren't good enough. but you don't want to have all the clubs at the top level grow and see the league grow, but the grassroots get left behind and you've got no players coming through.
That's the thing. The amount of money now at the top level compared to what is happening further down the pyramid, it's just night and day really. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. As Phil says, bit of a catch-22 now. They want the deal to fund the new investment. Fans want, but do they have a big enough fan base to get away with it? That's going to be the big question. Again, I think a lot of people will be pushed to piracy. I think in a selfish point, people will be pushed to things like our channel where we can provide a form of coverage for people. But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Well, that's why we exist, though, because if people can't afford to watch it, we're here to try and give the best content we can to everyone.
And as RC says, I do think they could pinch some of the male sports fans demographic, though, which is a good audience to have if they stay watching. And this is the biggest thing, because still in the UK, the majority of... there's more men watching women's sports, or a higher percentage of men watching women's sports, than there are women watching women's sports. And so, from that perspective, Sky put women's football on the best platform for attracting sports fans, which is who are more likely to watch the WSL and stick with the team and get invested than a lot of the women's fans, a lot of female fans who are coming in. And so it's a tough place because you really want more female fans watching women's football and women's sports and pushing it onwards. But if there's not the same interest, then does it make more sense to market it towards male fans who do have this tribal love for sports, seemingly?
And I hope they get the scheduling right, because as you say, it's about being smart. Because if someone sits down at 1 o'clock and they have a choice of watching Jamie Carragher do build up for an hour or watching the second half of Chelsea versus Man United, I think there's more people that would choose to watch the Chelsea woman versus Man United woman than watch the build up. That's the point of it, is that with the scheduling on the Sundays, if you can sit down and watch the women's game at 12, and then that follows on into 2, and then obviously then you've got the men's 4:30, but then the late game on the Sunday will be there, and people will go, oh, happy days, I'll throw that on, and I'll watch that while I'm having my tea, and that works perfectly. So I think that, people will be frustrated by it, but I think the long term, they've got it right this year, and it's the right decision. Personally.
And I think what we will see is as girls grow up watching women's game, they will just fall in love with the sport anyway, and then become general sports fans. I think there is a lot of women who watch women's football who don't watch other sports because they're not general sports fans. They like the women's game, and that's a fine way to consume the game, not having a go at that at all. But that obviously does then make it difficult when they're putting it on Sky Sports, where you can't just buy the WSL. You have to buy it all. But hopefully it encourages in-stadium attendances, because it's going to be cheaper, and this is the way around it should be. It's cheaper to go to the games, obviously, when you don't factor in the travelling costs. But the ticket is cheaper than watching it on the TV. And that is the way all football should be. The problem is the Premier League and leagues like that are caught up with so much greed. But hopefully we see the women's game go down a slightly different route. That's a nice place to round things off. We are back with, there's loads of videos coming out. There's a video Sunday. There is a video Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we're back with the season.
Wow.
So if you couldn't follow that, unlucky.
It's so close. I can't believe how close we are to the start of the season now.
I keep forgetting it. United PSV is literally Wednesday.
Wow.
Which will be very important.
Football's back, ladies and gentlemen.
But we will... We'll say in the Monday video probably whether or not we are covering that. It will depend on what... I haven't checked the kickoff time and stuff like that. So we'll have a look at that. Whether we're around, we may be covering that game. If you're interested, have a look for that. Manchester United PSV on Wednesday. We will definitely be back, of course, with the start of the WSL season. And we're definitely back with these streams next Thursday, 5 p.m. until 7 p.m. So next Thursday, and then the Thursday after is our deadline day stream, which I need to check the women's deadline, but that'll probably be quite a late show.
Yes, that will be.
So may benefit, depending on where you are in the world, that may be good for you. It may not be, so find out. One last thing, Malalo says, do you think Leonard Gunning-Williams will go out on loan? I hope not. No. I think she deserves to start at Tottenham this season.
She's been given number 18. For me, that looks like she's going to be involved in the squad this season.
Yeah, definitely points towards it. But yeah, that does round up today's show. Thanks so much for everyone that's tuned in. 46 throughout, really. So yeah, thanks to everyone that stayed watching throughout today's show. As I say, we'll be back with more live shows throughout the next 2 weeks and loads of coverage. We are planning on covering every side in the WSL this season, previewing their season. We've already done a lot of the big clubs. This week we'll be focusing a little bit more on some of the clubs further down the league. And then
Yes.
obviously in the week running up to the season, we'll be doing our predictions and stuff like that. And there will be some audience participation with the predictions video. So look out for that. That will have more information about that on YouTube, on the community tab, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, wherever you go to find what we're doing. There'll be information there where you can get involved because we want to hear from you guys with your predictions. So look out for that when it comes. That was everything. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.